What's good? It's your boy Little Taller Man, Dallas View Net Radio Show. We are here out in Mansfield.
That's it.
I'm gonna tell you the truth. The last time I've been out in the Mansfield, it was Mansfield, Louisiana, and I think it was probably about a year and a half ago because that's where all my family's from. So how is it? I'm sorry. Before we go any further, let me go ahead and introduce you to Robert Morris. You know what I'm saying? This is a author, a motivational speaker, and also a songwriter, which I've come to find out. We'll get into that a little bit later because we have that's going to be the common tie that brings us all together and how we pretty much got here. But yeah, just kind of give us how does it living out in Mansfield?
You want me to hold this? All right. I've been out in Mansfield for around 14 years. When we first arrived, it says been a lot of changes. Mansfield was a nice small town. Obviously, it's grown. The place we're sitting in now wasn't here. A lot of the buildings that you see, traffic-wise, a lot of these people that are here now, it wasn't here. You pretty much could walk anywhere and just see a bunch of cows. It's not like that anymore. So it's grown quite a bit over the last 14 years.
14 years. I was just about to ask you how long you've been here. 14 years. Wow. Because we passed through this part when we were passing through, and like you said, it was cows and everything. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't. This Frisco, all of the little metropolitan areas, they've grown a lot.
Oh yeah.
But it's just not Mansfield.
Oh yeah. So you don't get down here often?
No, I don't get out this way often at all. Like the furthest I'll go is Arlington, and I'll shoot into Fort Worth.
Right.
But most times it's pretty much that.
Okay.
So we are here with the big banner in front of us. Well, not pretty big, but table-sized banner. The mountains behind us. This is the second installment, isn't it?
It is. It is. The first book was written back in 2005.
Right.
And went through a process where I was wanting to start another book. Life kicked in, things you got to deal with, family issues, job issues, that kind of thing. But always wanted to write something different.
Right.
But it came to me to where before I moved on and wrote something different, I needed to go back, basically clean up the book, add some new content, make it more professional, more polished.
Yeah.
Plus, I'd grown as a writer, as an artist, as you said earlier, even as a songwriter.
Right.
But just as a man, as a Christian, just life experiences does things to you and takes you to a different level.
Right.
And so with this particular version of the book, it's more of it's like the more polished version of what I wanted to say even back then.
Okay. So this is just kind of like a second installment, like of the very first book.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Does it have like more in-depth story into it or any?
Oh yeah. Keep in mind, 14 years have passed.
Right.
Many more mountains.
Right.
More stories. And if I really wanted to, I could probably do 4 volumes of this. It's just talking about things that I've experienced in my life, different challenges I've had to overcome. If I may, the way the first edition came about was after I got out of service, I did 10 years Air Force. Was overseas for several years in Greece, Holland, a lot of different places in Europe.
Love Holland.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful over there. We could talk offline about.
Yes, we can. We can talk about it right now. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, one of my questions was, what is your favorite place overseas?
Definitely the Netherlands. Oh yeah, easily. The people over there were great. They spoke English, first of all.
Take a guess. Rotterdam.
Well, so yes and no.
That's my favorite.
Yes and no. So I've been to Rotterdam. I lived about maybe 20 minutes away from Amsterdam.
Right.
So obviously I went there quite often, especially as a tourist. You go check it out. And when you live there, it's a little bit different. But got a chance to hang out there, got a chance to check out Queen's Day and all of the museums and all of that. But the people were just fantastic over there. The food was great. Just the culture itself was awesome. I always told people that if I didn't come back home, that's the place where I would have stayed.
That's the same. You know what? That's the same exact way I feel. Like like I said, Rotterdam is my choice. Amsterdam was cool, but it's too New York City.
Right. Rotterdam a little more laid back.
To me, it was more quaint, rural, but yet you still get that, like, you're around hardworking people who know how to enjoy themselves.
That's true.
And it's not really a party thing, it's more just enjoy themselves.
Right.
The coffee shops, the cafes,
the jazz festivals.
The North Sea Jazz Festival.
Oh yeah.
Is awesome.
Yep.
So,
you know about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the reason why we ended up out there.
Okay.
My family goes out there and does it almost every year.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. So, and the reason why I asked that is because I want to encourage more people to travel.
Oh yeah.
And see these places.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, I have plenty of stories mainly from traveling.
Yeah. Is there any that stick out in particular that you'd like to share?
In Holland? Well, I'll share a story that's more military related, going from Greece to Holland. it's a little challenging to talk about it, but there was a friend of mine, unfortunately, who was victim to a terrorist attack over there. And the day before this happened, we had just finished an amazing day. Won the base championship in baseball tournament.
Okay.
Had a wonderful day. We're sitting down talking, and he's like, Rob, you don't get many days like this. Over there, we had newspaper, TV coverage. We were pseudo celebrities for 5 minutes.
Right,
it was awesome. And that morning or the next morning, the radio comes on and AFN radio says, American service member was a victim of a terrorist attack, and I hear this note or this something sliding across my floor, and it turned out it was an envelope. I went to get it, and my best friend at the time had left me a note and told me that the person I was speaking with had been killed that evening. So as far as how I got from there to Holland. When I think about it, I go back there sometimes because I was coming out of a friend's house and there was some writing on my car, and it was in Greek, and it said, "You're next, Black American." So of course I went not home, but I went to the base, and when they saw the writing on my car, they literally pulled me out the car, gun to my head, all that. It's pretty interesting. And next thing I know, we were in an American hotel in Athens, Greece, and shortly after that, on our way to Holland, and just experienced quite a few trials just from getting from Greece to Holland and all that. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is. It really is just to hear about that, because like I was saying, I've been to France, right?
Yeah, and, love it over there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my heart's over there, part of my heart's in Rotterdam.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I try to go visit myself as much as possible.
I know that's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I did notice, though, is like they were having a strike on the way out, and when they get ready.
Oh, in France?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when they get
ready, I know where you're going.
Yeah, when they get ready, they suit up. Like if anybody else is checking this out, if you get a chance, check out any of the YouTube footage of any of the strikes that go on overseas, and you can really see how live they get. Like, we think we get violent here. It's a whole different type of.
So I didn't expect any of this. So this is good stuff. So I'll tell you another story. The airline catering company went on strike.
Yeah.
Airline catering company. So you're thinking, no problem. They'll get what they want or whatever. But I'm driving down this beautiful Greek boulevard, and I saw a crowd 100 yards in front of me. Mm-hmm. And the crowd got larger and larger, and I'm literally sitting at a red light, and then they started running towards me.
Yeah.
And they started throwing bricks, sticks.
Yeah.
And so, okay, what you do? I am from Detroit, right? You get up, you drive up on the sidewalk, and you get out the way. Mm-hmm. And it's like a cartoon. I looked in my rearview mirror, and you could see all the people just throwing, and it was a riot. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going towards the base, and I happen to be black, of course, and I'm in Greece, and I'm driving a Pontiac Sunbird at the time. Mm-hmm. So obviously I'm an American. I stood out. And as I was going onto the base, they were literally beating on the car, burning the American flag, down with the U.S. and all this other stuff. And this guy was just beating on my door, and he was just saying, "Down with America." And he reached in my car. He said, "Hey, Rob, I'll see you in about 5 minutes." I knew the guy. Yeah. And so when we got to the office, I'm sitting down, and he walks in. "What's going on?" He said, "Well, man, if I didn't beat up on your car, they would have been mad with me, so I had to participate."
Right.
He said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." Crazy stories about being in Europe.
Yeah.
Definitely go ahead.
That's crazy, man. Like that's the way that life goes. Though. Like, in order for him to make sure that both you and him were safe, he had to do something that was kind of extreme.
Absolutely.
And it takes you back to those times where you see something on TV where you're like, I can't believe that somebody would do this to bail themselves out.
That's true.
Or people being undercover. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's literally how life is. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're a certain person at work. You're a certain person in your personal life. You're a certain person when you're around your friends and family. So, back to the mountains behind. Is that the type of things that are covered in that book?
So, and I saw this guy. He had the hat. He could have been in New York.
Yeah.
He had the starter jacket on back in the day, sitting and listening to his music.
So American.
Oh, yeah. And I walk over to him, and I say, "Yo, man, we're about to head back to the base. You want to roll with us?" He goes,
You're like,
next thing I know, I said, "Oh, this brother ain't from..." You want to talk about, again, you can't assume. Mm-hmm. Because I was guilty of that. Yeah. I saw him. He looked like me. He had on the same outside clothes. I knew there was a guy I could talk to. Look, and I wanted to help him out. Yeah. And he looked at me like, "I don't know you." In his own language, no thanks, appreciate it, all that. So needless to say, that experience taught me that people say don't judge a book by its cover, but you really, truly can't.
Yeah.
You don't know what a person's been through. You don't know what gifts they have until you sort of step from behind your own curtain and say, hey, what's going on?
So with that being said, how do you come about a cover for a book?
Okay, so
you can't judge a book by its cover.
When the first edition of the book came out, I was. A friend of mine told me I was too humble for my own good. I don't know if that's true, but I didn't want my picture on the cover.
Right.
Because I didn't want it to be about me, which is strange because it's an autobiographical book. But that was sort of my way of kind of staying behind the scenes, even though I was in front. This particular version, of course, I had grown, as I said, and things have changed. And I decided, you know what? In order for me to step out into my purpose, this is who I am.
Right.
Take a look. The mountains are behind this person, as opposed to a depiction of an individual, which is what I had on the first book, first edition. And it took me a while to kind of come up with this exact design. I had an amazing guy named Bobby Costin, who is who helped me with the cover, who came up with some of the graphics and all that. And we just kind of collaborate on it. It works. Definitely shout out to Bobby. He's an awesome dude. Yeah, we're really talented, and this is what we came up with.
So, if we were to flip to the middle of the book, does it give a certain story in there that kind of, or is it kind of like one just run through, like it starts at a period of time and then it kind of ends at a current period of time?
Good question. So the way the book is formatted is, I wanted you, the reader, because I want to do a film of this book, and so I wanted an opening that would grab you and make you go, wow, I want to know what's next. And that's the goal of every person who writes a book or does a film. They want that first few minutes. Just like when you're having a conversation with somebody you don't know, you only have a few moments to grab them.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm speaking to an audience, I have maybe 2 minutes or less to kind of get them engaged. So the beginning of the book is important. That being said, on page 9, there's a chapter called Lights Out. And it talks about a major event that took place when I was a child. And it sort of leads into the rest of the book. So you meet me at that time as a little boy, 7, 8 years old. Tell you what happened. Briefly, I can tell you it's a story of my mother and I in an attic in this home, and she's going through all these clothes, and she finds a baseball uniform.
Yeah.
At that time, I really wanted to play baseball, so she gives me the uniform. And I'm out in the street playing. I used to sleep in this thing, and one day I'm out there playing, having a great day, and then the person who was the abuser in my home just calls me. And literally, I just stopped, dropped the bat, run home, and something traumatic happens. And I won't spoil it for you. Something traumatic happens, and that opens the book. So from that standpoint, you keep getting more and more stories about what happened to this child, then young adult, then grown man. Because again, the book is called The Mountains Behind. It's not the molehills behind.
Right.
And some of the challenges that we've all had to go through. If we were to sit down and write them, I'm sure you have your own story. You could talk about some things that that maybe weren't that pleasant.
Right.
And if you were to write them, wow, what would you write? You know, if you were to put them on film, what would be your story on film?
No.
I mean, but we all have some things that that happen to us that maybe not as traumatic as what I've gone through, but some things that we go, wow, if I had a choice, I wouldn't have to go through that again.
Well, I kind of differ with it because I feel like all traumatic situations are equal in value. You've probably seen somebody get shot and killed.
Yep.
Being in the military, right?
I was like get shot and killed coming up in Detroit.
Right. I've seen somebody get shot and killed right next to me. It had a different traumatic experience on it, but knowing that experience allows me to open up to somebody else's experience.
Sure.
Because I know the shock and the feeling that comes from that. So with that being, like you say, you weren't expecting this kind of interview. The reason why we have this kind of interview is because now I'm intrigued with the person who wants to be open.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be open unless you have something to share.
Absolutely, I agree.
And then it also comes back to a book. I mean, you don't sit down and write. Let's see here. What pages are we looking at? 287 pages. You don't write 287 pages worth of words. You know what I mean? To just have somebody just kind of be like, well, it was a good book.
Right.
For them to try to put it.
Well, you want to elicit input.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, even M. Night Shyamalan wants you to go back and pick that book up again.
Sure.
And everything that's written has a nugget of truth. Everything has a nugget of truth. But this is somebody's life. If somebody's coming from coming from the military, going from Greek to going to the Netherlands, you have things, you have nuggets that they can take.
That's true.
You know what I mean? But before this platform, they wouldn't have that ability to even know that it's there.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So that's the whole thing about. I guess to make it short, I'm interesting and you're interesting too. Everybody has their thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've discovered that too when I do book signings. One thing that intrigued me was how many people would tell me, which is going to segue how I got into motivational speaking.
Okay.
It would intrigue me as to how many people say, I want to write a book, or I've started to write a book, or how did you write a book? Because they're telling you that they're thirsty to let something out of them as well. And I thought, wow, really? So how can I help them? And it started to come so I wanted to use this not for me to stand up and say, here I am, where's my platform, but it was like, how can I help you accomplish whatever goals you have by using this as part of my toolbox, so to speak.
So the second edition is more of the toolbox, where the first edition was more of the introduction of the person.
Get out of here. Yep, that's exactly right. Because at this point now you're stepping more into purpose. And I always tell people, when you're walking in purpose, then fear kind of takes a back seat, and it's really not even there.
That's true.
Because before, even when I would stand up and speak, I wasn't polished. I kind of was doing it, but people always told me, oh, we always saw that on you. I didn't see it.
Right.
But once I caught it, that this is what I'm supposed to do, wow, I dove into Toastmasters. I dove into winning contests. I dove into speaking at different functions. I just kind of dove into it because that's really where I feel more at home, when I'm standing in front of an audience and I'm speaking and I'm encouraging and I'm motivating them and inspiring them and really trying to take them from that place of where they are to where they're trying to get to. And it's awesome.
Is it self-published?
Yes.
So what is the difference in the self-publishing process? Like, what would you, to kind of preface, my lady's a writer, and she thinks about the self-publishing process, but she's not really into it because she wants to be is it MLA? The standard writer, but she wants to be somebody who's stood out in a different light, put on the USA Times type of book list type.
Well, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I mean, you can still achieve the same thing with the self-publishing,
yes.
right?
However, it's much more difficult because you have to do a lot of the work yourself. So if anybody's watching this, I do need a manager or agent, and I'm open to discussions and how that works, because you do need someone. If I come to you and tell you my book is this or my book is that, it sounds as though I'm boasting, bragging, because I'm talking about my work.
Right.
But if you go to someone and say, man, I know this individual, he's written a great book, you might want to talk to him, all of a sudden you become an advocate for that individual, and then they'll more likely take a look as opposed to myself doing it. That's the biggest challenge.
That's true.
Now, once you do this, self-publishing, and you sell X number of copies, it won't matter. They'll come to you.
Right.
So the goal is, to me, is to get the work out there. And if you can do it traditionally, by having someone call you up and say, yes, we want to represent you, and they write you a check and they send you, great. If that doesn't happen, do you not pursue your goal? Do you not pursue your dream? You continue to do it. It took me, the first edition took me 3 years to write. The second edition took me, believe it or not, I was laid off the day before Christmas. I started work in the end of January. I had every night spent time on updating and publishing the second edition of my book. This came about in 6 months.
So how do you feel like the aging process of just growing helped in that time difference? Because at first you had to try to compile it all together. In the second part, you didn't really have to compile it all together. You just kind of had to fill in the gaps.
Which was more challenging than I thought. Because when you write something at a certain point in time, it is what it is at that certain point in time.
Right.
Now, if you go back and you take something that you've written and you want to modify, first of all, you got to figure out, well, what parts, I won't say are not important because it was all important, but what parts do I want to make sure that I include, and what parts can I say, well, this was fine for then, but it's not fine, it's fine now. That was the challenge. However, I can tell you this, I've lived a life that to me has been so filled with incredible experiences. I had an amazing pool to choose what stories to put in and which stories to leave out. So it really was a challenge of how large I wanted the book to be. Like you mentioned, 287 pages. It could have easily been more. But you also don't want to give the reader fatigue as well.
I was just about to say, you probably want to make it to where it's a good number, where they can be into it but be out of it.
Absolutely. And you keep coming with good stuff, because the reason why I chose the format I chose, as opposed to just kind of giving you more of a novel format for this, I put it into where it's small chunks. Like you could come home after work and you can flip open a book, go to a particular mountain, read it. It's maybe 4 to 5 pages a piece. Put it down, if you can put it down.
That makes sense. So now the mountains are pretty much the chapters in the book as they come. So you can either take them all together,
yes,
or you can take them each mountain at a time.
Absolutely. And they do not have to be in chronological order.
Right.
I have a whole chapter here about just experiences working in corporate America.
Yeah, and
some people will stay there.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, because I mean, and that's another thing. You came from the military atmosphere, to where things were not laid out, but orders were given, and then you were to try to follow those orders, which in some people's mind makes life a lot easier, but it really does make make life harder, because you have to now deal with your personal what's the word?
Kind of put your own self to the side.
Yeah. You have to deal with your own personal boundaries and the things that you were willing to deal with at first. How was that transition coming from that military atmosphere?
That's a good question.
To the not real world,
right. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's what we call it, the real world. When you get out, you're going back to the world. Of course, I was in, some time ago, so things are different. Didn't have the internet, didn't have email, those kind of things. So when you came back to the States, it really was like coming into a completely different world. My transition was interesting in that I didn't get out on my own free will. I got out when they had the reduction after the war. And so I came back home to a place that I felt I had kind of outgrown. I had been in Greece and Holland, top of the Eiffel Tower, been to a lot of different places. Like you talked about your bucket list. I had experienced a lot of that. And with that, not only do you grow, it's like your mind is just formulated differently when you come back home, because they're still swimming in the same water that you grew up in, and you're not used to that anymore.
Right.
And so when you come back home, let's be real, come from the hood, some of the people still doing some of the same things, the ones that are still living.
Right.
So when you come back, you're almost like an alien.
Yeah.
I had people tell me, Robert, you're a nice guy, but light skin ain't in no more. Right, I had people tell me that. I had people look at my clothes that I was wearing. I was wearing real European clothes as opposed to the Americanized European clothes, so I was looked at a little bit different.
Right.
It took me a while to assimilate back into that culture. That was a challenge. But one thing I did have that I got from my mother and my father was a work ethic. And I felt like as long as I went to work, the rest would take care of itself. And it did.
So as long as you had the same work ethic that you had in the military and brought it back with you, it made it a little bit easier transition.
It did, yeah. It still was difficult, but it made it easier.
Good on time? Good on time? Are we good on time?
You got 5 minutes on the record.
Cool. Alright, let's see if there's anything else out there.
Man, you're doing it. I'm loving this.
Appreciate it. So let's go into the songwriting thing.
Okay.
So we don't miss it. How did you come in touch with Ryan J? Was that kind of like through the poetry thing, or is that just kind of like you just reached out?
Well, shout out to Ryan. What's up, Ryan? I met Ryan, and every time I tell the story, we tell it slightly different.
Right.
Okay, so this is how I remember it. We were doing a Poetry Night event, and this gentleman was standing next to me, really quiet. Matter of fact, I don't even think he was talking. And he just kind of came up to me, kind of was like, yo, I sing and this and that. I was like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, I sing. I said, wait, what do you do? He said, I sing. I said, okay, what's your name? Yeah, my name is Ryan J. And I was looking at him like, okay, this guy wants to sing a song. So I said, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let you get on up there.
Right.
He gets up on the stage and he opened up his mouth, and all I could say was, wow. The performer came out.
Right.
And I was really surprised, pleasantly so. Again, you never know what a person has until you give them a shot. We became friends almost immediately, met his family and all that. And one day, we were sitting in the car, and I said, Ryan, can you sing an up-tempo song? To that point, I had only heard him sing kind of
ballads.
Yeah, ballads, whatever, and which were nice, and they were really good. But I said, can you sing something up-tempo? And he was like, yeah. So I put a song on the CD, and I played it for him. I said, "Can you sing this?" He belted it out. I was like, "Wow!" And so I said, "I have an idea for a song for you," and it came to me right then. So I wrote a song for him in about maybe a day and a half. It was called "One Day Closer to You," and we worked on the melody and all that stuff. And next thing I know, we're recording. We had a song, and it turned into quite a few songs.
Is there anybody else that you've written songs for?
Not officially, no. But yes, the goal is to be a songwriter. The goal is to express myself in many ways. I have gospel songs, R&B songs, even some jazz songs that I've written for. So if there are any artists out there interested in collaborating, hit me up.
Speaking of, I'm glad you got to that point. If you'll give me your social media so that way they can contact you since we get close to the end of it.
No worries. You can reach me at robertdmorris.com. My email address is robertdmorris@robertdmorris.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just Robert Douglas Morris for all three. Made it really simple. I'll even give my number is 682-808-0807. So you have all kinds of ways to contact me. The name of the book again is called The Mountains Behind, second edition. It's available Amazon. It's available digitally. I'm working on an audio version of it right now. You can go to iuniverse.com and get it. You can go to robertdmorris.com. It's everywhere. If there's an event you'd like for me to come and be of service, hit me up. I love talking to kids. I've spoken at colleges, schools, different churches. So it's just been awesome. So, and I appreciate the opportunity for you to speak with me, get to know me a little bit.
I got one last question for you.
What you got?
Would this be your form of PTSD?
PTSD?
PTSD. I always get that twisted.
So, no, I would. I guess I want to answer that right because that's a good question. I can tell you that going through and writing. Okay, let me just say it like this. I experienced the mountains. I wrote about the mountains and I published it. So there are some of them that I've had to go through 1,000 times. And you think you're past it. One day I did a book signing here recently. I did a book signing, and at a book signing, they usually ask you to read something. Right. So the chapter that I told you about earlier, Lights Out, I said, okay, let me read that. And as I started reading it, I literally went back there and got the emotions all over again, and I did not expect that. So as a form of PTSD, I won't say that it's that, but I'll say that my perspective of it has changed because now I can see myself as an adult looking at that child, experiencing that, and I feel bad for that young man, that little boy.
Right.
But from an adult perspective, no, I'm past all of that, and I can, because I have to be able to be past it in order to be able to use it. I can't be sitting in front of you, crying the blues or still dealing with it emotionally if I'm not and trying to get you to see where I'm at. And I can't call it the mountains behind if it's still in front of me. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out and allowing us to do this interview.
All right.
Robert Douglas Morris, The Mountains Behind, the second installment. Please make sure to grab it, get it, and support it. Check him out on social media, support him. That was the radio show. I've been Lewis Holloman. Love Go Kev. Let's go.
Appreciate you.